In today's video, I'm going to debunk some of the Copilot Studio vulnerability claims that have recently been shared on a company's website. So the first one is that whenever you create a new Copilot, that you're going to have your Copilot created and it's going to be set as an unauthenticated Copilot. While this was true in the past, actually if you create a new Copilot today, and I'm going to leave this in an unedited version so that way you can see I'm not going to speed things up or anything of that nature, just to make sure that you guys see this as a full end-to-end. What you will see is that when we create a new Copilot, and it's been this way for quite some time in Copilot Studio, that we actually set the Copilot to be authenticated from end to end. And so if you'll notice here, now that I've created a new Copilot, it'll take it a second for at the top here, you'll see that it says it needs to finish the setup, and we'll let it go ahead and finish doing that. But like I said, when it gets created, you'll actually see that now it's provisioned here, and I'm going to just go into the settings of my Copilot, and we'll go into the security. And what you'll see is you'll have authentication, which is by default sent to authenticate with Microsoft with the Entra ID, and it requires authentication, which is two different things that were called out in that particular video about the vulnerabilities. Also, notice that generative AI is not turned on by default within the system, so I'm going to have to go in and I'm actually going to have to turn on the boost conversations, because one of the other things that was said that's really inaccurate is the fact that generative AI is somehow going to do things that it shouldn't do right out of the box or things of that nature. So what I'm going to do is go back, and you'll see here I could put in a website or a SharePoint source, which is how you would typically go about adding SharePoint, and it would add this conversational boosting. And let's go into this a little bit more just to show what all is going to be required. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that this actually creates the generative answers node here. And if you'll notice here, this is where you would put in SharePoint information as advertised by Microsoft for you to be able to go in, and you can see that it's going to be limited to SharePoint sites. Now, when you actually put this in, the number one issue that we get reported is people can't figure out how to actually do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you by going in and looking at the documentation, and you can do a simple Bing search on this yourself and go in and look at the SharePoint information here for OneDrive for Business for generative answers, and you'll see here that it calls out that we actually require you for this to work to use an Entra ID in order for this to actually go work. And I can scroll further down just to show you guys that there's additional configuration, but you'll see here that there's authentication and all of the different requirements. I've got a video on my channel that shows all the details of how you have to do this and how you have to set up an application inside of the Entra side to make sure you have to define scopes. All of these things are required to make sure that you can't actually get to anything you're not supposed to get to, and it sets up impersonation as part of that. Matter of fact, you'll even see there it says sites read all, files read all of that, and that's basically within the context of the user that is authenticated. So what I'll do is I'll jump back over to this video that shows that they actually, in this video, they created a custom connection into SharePoint to be able to get items. And this is them deciding to set up a connector and authenticate that connector, not as the user, but as the actual system, like a system account. And then they take that and they pass that information into a generative answers node with custom data. So they've actually authored this implementation to specifically use a service principal name and then show the custom data. So just be aware that this is actually not an accurate statement of how Copilot Studio works, and I just wanted to make sure that we could debunk that for you, as well as I also wanted to call out that there is a discussion about the transcripts. The transcripts are actually stored in a Dataverse table that is accurate, but that Dataverse table is actually secured today with ACLs and things of that nature. The data at rest is also secured. And if you are setting up your Copilot as an administrator, you can take the transcripts and make sure that you secure those transcripts independent from the author of the Copilot itself. So with that, I hope this video was super helpful. I want to make sure we address any security concerns that someone may have. And as always, you can try Copilot Studio at aka.ms/try Copilot Studio. And feel free to subscribe and like this video. And you guys stay safe, and thanks for watching.